Welcome to the Ocean Cruisers podcast, hosted by Andy H. This week we are speaking to Steve and Judy from the YouTube channel Sailing Fair Isle. Steve and Judy are fun-time liveaboards from the UK and are now cruising around the Mediterranean on their stunning Hans Christian 48. Prior to being full-time cruisers, they both worked in journalism, producing news and documentaries on UK television. Their boat is a stunning example of a full-keeled classic, a sturdy, comfortable cruiser, and what many sailors would consider the holy grail of blue water cruisers. They have travelled from the UK into the Med and are now in Italy, setting sail soon to continue their travels, where the wind takes them. You can learn more about Steve and Judy's adventures on their YouTube channel, Sailing Fair Isle. If you want to support the production of these podcasts, you can become a member of our community on Patreon. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and download the audio on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
What made you decide that you wanted to give up like a very established, successful lifestyle in both of your cases and move onto a boat and travel around the world?
It's really a change of life, I think, when the kids left home, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly. I mean, it was a life, with a family, and then once they start leaving home, you sort of think, well, what are we going to do? And it was quite a responsibility with the house that we had, because we had a livery yard, so we had 10 acres, we had lots of animals.
Oh, wow.
So you were quite tied to the land in that way. So if we wanted to go off and make films or travel a bit more, or all the things that we wanted to do once the children had left home, it would have been very difficult in that house. So then we downsized, and I just think we went a bit over the top.
Right, okay. Well, so you downsized, but you got a bigger place, or you downsized to a boat?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is downsized from a farm. Okay, but so was that something that you acquired through the family? Like you ended up on a farm?
No, it wasn't a farm in that way. It was. We had land because we got 3 girls. I tried to get them into sailing. Judy, because you can get them onto horses before they can get on a horse before they can walk. I can't get them in a boat until they're sort of 3 or 4. So Judy won that particular battle, and then by the time they were all sort of 5 or 6, coming around that sort of age, toddlers, they were massively into horses, and every weekend was pony club. So that's what you do. You go out and you play with horses. So actually boats didn't get a look in at all during our life with kids. We went off a couple of times and did some races in the Caribbean and things, so invited out for those, so Judy would come along. But boats weren't really a thing when we had the family, because all the time you're either working or you're doing what the kids want to do, which was horses. I bought a little enterprise dinghy thinking, okay, at least I'll teach them to sail. We got a reservoir near us, beautiful water. But at a weekend, basically they'd say, well, Daddy, we want to ride the horses. We don't want to go and sail a boat. And the nearest we got was them coming along with a picnic, and I would sail the boat across the lake, and they would ride the horses round to the other side. We'd have a picnic, I'd sail it back, and they would ride the horses back. That's about as much as we sort of got.
So you were left carrying the luggage across the reservoir, and then having a nice sail on the horses. I think this is a serious reminder to anybody who's about to have kids who like sailing. Don't get the kids into horse riding.
Yeah, well, there's an up and a downside to that, because one of the questions we get asked a lot as well is, how do you get your wife, onto a boat? Because Judy, wasn't a sailor. She used to come to the Caribbean, which is lovely. I know I've been a sailor all my life, so I sailed with my father on the east coast of England in all weathers. And I know that would be the first thing to put Judy and the girls off if I said, okay, we're going to go down and sail from the Orwell to the Demon or something. They'd say, what? You're mad. So you think, well, okay, you haven't been subjected to that. So actually, when it sort of came, we're going to buy a boat and we're going to sail around the world, in the warm places around the tropics, you think, yeah, right,
It's about the proposition as well. You have to make it sound right, yeah. So like Judy, your experience of sailing before was doing nice charters, stuff in the Caribbean, warm climates.
Yes, well, 1 or 2. It really was 1 or 2. So really, I hadn't been on boats at all, and I think I was more ballast on most of the things that we did, rather than learning too much about it. So really, I've learnt to sail on this boat on Fair Isle.
Yeah. So this was basically the first time I thought, I'll get Judy in a boat. We was on a job in the Caribbean doing a thing on fair trade bananas, and there was a Hobie cat sitting on the beach. So I thought, okay, well, this looks nice. It's a lovely day. So we jump on, and it's going nicely. So Judy takes the helm, and I'm sort of going through what to do, and then we're doing this for 10 minutes or so, and I could see a bit of weather coming in, a bit of a front coming in, and so just ease the sheet a bit. What? It's in a jam proof. Couldn't get it off. So by the time I got round, this wind had hit us, and we pitch poled. And
oh my lord! Actually, this is the first time you went sailing.
Yeah,
first time,
that was pretty much.
Oh my god!
First time I went, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fine. It's warm water, so how bad can it be?
But the thing was, Judy, never being on a boat. I mean, obviously you swim straight back to the boat and you grab the boat. Well, Judy's just sort of floating along, and I get back to the boat and think, where the hell is she? And she was miles away. And
she went for a swim.
And then, luckily, there was a big yacht there, and they launched their rib, and they came and got her and brought her back.
But it was warm, and I think because you don't know, there was no fear, because I hadn't had that sort of experience before, so I didn't know it was dangerous, really. But now I do. Now I'd be well worried if that happened.
Well, yeah, if the boat you've got now went sideways and under, that would be a bit different. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's so much easier though. Like when you're in a warm climate, the concept of, I mean, the biggest fear about being in a boat is the thing sinks or it tips over and you end up in the water. When the water's warm and it's like 10 meters and you can see the bottom, that entire side of it, which is the fear, is just pushed to one side. It doesn't really exist.
Yeah, it's a very different thing. Yeah. Cold water sailing, I mean, the water kills you pretty quick. You're going to be in there 10 minutes, and then that's you done really in cold water. So massive difference.
That's pretty dramatic that you went from like one or two experiences of sailing to just living on a boat straight away. Because usually there is like a soft transition, or there's a few charter trips, or let's get a smaller boat, then a bigger boat, then a bigger boat. But was that not just a massive shock?
Well, not really, because I knew it was going to be a completely different change. I was more concerned with whether or not we'd kill each other, by living in such a small space. So my sort of.
So Steve's very difficult. That's what you're saying.
So my leading up to this change was the fact that we were working on a filming and training job in Kenya, and we had to live in a hotel room for a month with all our gear. And so I felt, well, if we can do that, then moving on to a boat like Fair Isle is frankly a breeze. So that was much more of the concern for me. Also, I knew that Steve was a sailor. So to a great extent, I felt that if he's in charge and he can tell me what to do, and I pull on ropes or whatever I have to do to begin with, then that'll be fine. Of course, once we started the sailing channel, I realised that he would spend a lot of his time editing, and I'd be the one doing the sailing. That was a bit later.
Yeah. Okay, so you're the captain now.
Yeah. Once we got across the Bay of Biscay, I said, "Okay, you can take it now."
It was a bit like that. And also, of course, when you are doing the sailing, like going across the Bay of Biscay, you have to do your fair share. So I did some night watches. Not as much as Steve, because frankly I'm not as very good at staying up at night, but it's more that rather than anything else. But you do have to hand over. We have to make sure that Steve does get his sleep, otherwise it's not safe. So I had to muck in then, but that was a bit of a baptism of fire, I think, wasn't it? We hadn't really prepared for that either. So I think I just do things. I just get in it and do it.
And the small space thing. I mean, it's a reasonably large boat, but I mean, boats are small. I mean, smaller than any apartment that you're going to have, really. But it wasn't just that occasion in Kenya. We'd worked together as well all our lives. So we've been all over the world doing things, living out of a suitcase in a room. So that wasn't something that was difficult for us, really. Thinking, well, that's how you live. We could do it. We knew we could do it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, so Judy, have you, like, during the experience so far, because you've been living on a boat for a small while, have you developed an interest yet to like go and do some OIA courses or learn navigation or anything like that, or would you definitely leave that side to Steve and like be there to assist?
I don't think I want to do a course.
You have done your basic.
Oh yeah, right. Oh yeah, that's right. I did. I did the Competent Crew with Emily, the eldest.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, she was brilliant, actually. Yeah. She was great and really took to it. And I mean, that's the basic course, I suppose. Would I want to do any more and get a qualification? I don't think so. I think I'm happy just to go with the flow.
I mean, most people like learn from watching or learn from being sat at the side of someone else anyway. So makes sense.
And one of the things that we do is we film with, a lot of sailors. We film for, GGR, things like that. So, we get to meet some of the world's best sailors and sail with them and talk. So, I learn obviously masses from them. Judy does as well. So, learning by osmosis, I think, is quite a good way in boats.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, all right, Steve, I take it was your idea to do this. Can't see Judy being the one who brought this up.
It wasn't as people expect to be, what's something you've been wanting to do all your life, and you're coming up to the point where you can sort of semi-retire and have the time and, in the place to do it. I mean, because, we had several options. All we knew really is we wanted to do something different. And I said, well, I think either we go sailing or we go and buy a place in the Alps and ski, because skiing I had a great love. So, something like that is what, the discussions that we were having of what we were doing. And on the whole, Judy doesn't like the cold. So we think, okay, no, let's sail.
Right, okay.
But then the first year we bought Fair Isle, we bought her in Amsterdam, and we had the first winter in Amsterdam. We got iced in. So, it was pretty cold. But it's a warm boat, so we're fine. It's snug on here.
So what made you actually? Was there a specific thing that happened in your life that, because obviously you've done sailing as a sport, you've been on holidays, but that is so different from buying a boat and living on a boat. Was there something that changed in your mind that made you want to do it?
No, it's not a change like that, because I've been exposed to it all my life. My father lived on a boat for 35 years.
Oh, okay.
So it's something that was perfectly normal, I think, to me. Maybe not to Judy. I don't know.
No, well, obviously not for me. I think when we decided to buy a boat to live on, I was keen that it was comfortable. I'm afraid, that comfort was important. And with Fair Isle, I think we've cracked that. We're not a speedboat. We're 26 tons. That was the criteria. And I knew I had to have enough cupboards to bring with me what I felt I needed, and the rest we sold or gave away. And some of the furniture went to our eldest daughter, who just got married, which was quite handy. So that was my criteria. And then it became, wow, and we can travel to all these wonderful places. And then we decided to start filming it. So that was kind of the order, really.
We've been on the boat for 5 years. We've only had the channel going for 3, but we because we were still working, we're still making documentaries and training journalists is what we sort of do as a mainly during the winter now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was sort of a. It was a quick change to go over, as you say, from that lifestyle to another. Yeah. But you feel like that in real life, I don't think.
And I think that's the way I work, to be honest. I think I'm either 100% committed to this, or it's the gear change and I'm 100% committed to something else. Yeah. So yes, we just flicked the switch and went in a different direction.
I think it's one of those lifestyles you've got to be 100% into it, because it's such a change and it's so dramatic, and it can be so testing at times as well. You have to be all in, or you're probably going to struggle.
Yeah, but what Judy was saying about you want something that's comfortable is really important if you're going to live on a boat, because I knew that from for all my experience over the life of sailing. Mostly, it's going down at weekend to sail on a boat, and it's like you're camping. You've got plastic cups and you've milk, and that's how you live. But you don't want to live like that. So we've got proper glasses, and and we've got china plates and things like that. And this boat, you can carry them, and it's fine. You don't need to feel like you're camping, and I think that's really important to if you're going to live on a boat, to live on it properly. To make that your life.
That's actually a really good point. Like those small touches that you can put around the place that make it feel more like a home, rather than like a camper van, which is what a lot of cruising boats are like. They're a bit fiberglassy and a bit tinny sounding inside. But yeah, those like small little home type of touches, I suppose, can really make a difference.
Yeah, inside this wood, it's more like it's like going to a posh club. It's full of teak inside this.
Yeah,
and it's no plastic in here. And you think, well, why do you need that? Well, you do if that's what you're looking at every day. It is important, and from a practical point of view as well. Not just the aesthetics of it, but I did a thing the other day on one of our things in the morning. Condensation, condensation on the boat. It's -2 here at the moment in Italy, in Venice, where we are. So. Boats can be a real bugger to live on when it's
cold.
My father had a steel boat for many years. They're a nightmare. How much insulation you put on. This boat, it's really thick, and it's completely lined with teak staving inside. All the cupboards are louvered, so you've got airflow through it. So you don't have those problems. It's made, it's a boat that's made to live on and made to deal with these sorts of things, and many boats aren't. So you've really got to watch out for that and think, I'm going to live on this boat, what does that entail?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to suit basically every set of criteria that is set out for a house. You've got to find it in a boat. In a house, you'd want a house that's well insulated. If you get something that's 200 years old and it's got solid stone walls, you're going to be freezing in the winter and boiling in the summer.
Yes, and well ventilated as well. I mean, we've got a butterfly hatch in here, so the whole coach roof opens up, as well as opening portholes everywhere. Most modern boats now, they've got lots of light in that they put these just windows along the side, tinted windows, but you can't open them. A lot of them don't have dorades anymore either. If it's raining, you close everything. You need a dorade to get some airflow through, and a lot of boats don't, or they're so tiny, then you must not bother.
Oh, some of them are crazy. We were looking at some new Benettos in the marina that we've got here, because we've got a Beneteau dealer. So I'm just showing my wife like a few 45 to 50 foot range type of Benettos, and the guy who owns it was like, "Oh, come and look in this new one." And it was August, so it was probably like 35 degrees outside. When we got inside the boat, no kidding, it must have been like 50. It was insane. It was so hot. They hadn't had any windows opened, and I turned around, and after like a minute, I was drenched. So I was like, "Does this come with air conditioning?" It was just like, "Oh yeah, it's like about 10,000 euros for an air conditioner. So you might want a few here and a few there." I was like, "Well, forget it."
And you've got tow a generator boat behind you, are you?
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. Air conditioning on boats. I mean, a lot do have them, and if you're somebody, you really got to set yourself up for it. You've got to have an onboard Jenny if you've got air on board, and that's not a good thing, I don't think. Nowadays you can get by, with enough solar and decent batteries to not have to have all that sort of hassle. And we're in the process now, mainly because it's just died, our generator, but stripping that out and changing the way we do things.
Yeah. What are you doing with that, actually? Because I saw that in an episode. So that thing just completely clonked out. So are you going to get bigger panels and more batteries in its place?
Yes. I mean, eventually. I mean, I was hoping to get things done this winter, but there's two things involved in that. One, it's very expensive, lithium batteries. And two, there's a lot of, people think you can just plonk them in. Well, you can, you might get away with it, but you probably be causing yourself problems. And we want to cross oceans. We don't want to give ourselves problems. So it's got to be done right. All these sort of battery management systems they have, you've got to find ways, of using them properly so that doesn't kick in. Should be safe enough now. LiPo4 batteries are, they're safe. You shouldn't be, having fires and things on board, which was, something that was a real problem at the beginning of this sort of technology. But it's still, it's tricky. There's more to it than you think. So I need to deal with that properly. And I've got some things coming up actually in episodes. We've got a couple of bits of gear. One of them is a little box that's got a lithium battery in it and an inverter and solar panels, and that's a supplementary thing we can put on deck. We can charge. It'll basically get us, extend our time, without running the Jenny. I mean, I've already uprated the alternator, which is something you must do on a cruising boat. They're just pathetic. The little they don't even have external regulators normally, and they just don't work properly. They stop charging far too quickly. So you've got to get that side working properly. And I think if you do that and you get enough solar, then you don't need to have the onboard Jenny, unless you need air conditioning. Then you do.
Yeah, or a hairdryer, or all that massive list of things. Yeah. No, that's really interesting. So, I mean, with regards to like the lithium, have you done all the calculations to figure out what you use on a daily basis and how much extra storage and batteries you would need?
Yeah, I mean, I know what we use. To be honest, I think you can sit down and go through every bit of kit and try and work it out, but it's almost impossible to do, because for instance, if you try and work out what exactly what you're going to take for your auto helm, well, it depends on what weather you've got. And
exactly. Yeah,
if I was on the back quarter, then with my enormous bloody rudder, that it's working really hard, and it might be eating 7 or 8 amps. Other times it might be using 1 or 2. But that's another thing I want to do is I'll get wind vane steering at some stage before we get to the Pacific at least, where you sort of really need that sort of stuff. So it's sort of planning ahead, knowing what you want. You never get it right completely. I mean, I didn't get a water maker before we left, thinking, I won't need it in the Med. It's something I can put off until we get to the Caribbean. And then of course lockdown happens, and you think,
I was going to say,
And we was at anchor for 3 months. I think, we could really do with a water maker. So,
that experience that you went through was just well, because I'm based in Malaga, and we were talking on Facebook, like we were doing a few back and forwards when you first got locked down. Because I know you posted it. I think it was on a couple of the groups or something, and I just could not get my head around it. That today's society, the way things are, pretty advanced is pretty good. People are kind of well taken care of, especially in Europe. And there's you guys stuck just literally a mile off the coast. Not even that. You're a couple 100 meters off the coast of Spain, and you could not get water.
Yeah,
I was like, what? that is just so crazy.
Yeah, in the end, I mean, we had to force the issue a bit because we went to the only marina that was deep enough to take us. We were in the Mar Menor, it's an inland sea, and the bridge was closed and wasn't going to open. Didn't open for 3 months. We thought it would be 2 weeks, but okay, we need some water, and we said, look, we need to come in, get water, and they said, no, you're not allowed. So I just got on the VHF and said, we're coming in, we're going to tie up. No one needs to come anywhere near us, and we did, and then. I mean, basically, I felt sorry for them. The guy in Marinero comes out and said, look, sorry. I was told the Capitan said no one, and he couldn't get him on the phone. He didn't know what to do. But obviously, you can't sort of say to people, you're not going to have any water. You stay out there and die. So, sense prevailed. And, we hope that with some of the things happening now with COVID and Brexit and whatever, and the restrictions are there, that sense does prevail, at least at sea, because you get into a situation where people need safe passage and need to go in somewhere and might not be allowed to, under the laws.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the same as turning someone around at like a land border, where it's like, oh, just go away, you can't come in. There's probably a service station down the road. If you just turned up at a country on a boat, that's not an option. You need to figure it out, or you're going to have to get help somehow.
But in the end, because we did have to go and get water and we were bobbing around in the middle of the Mar Menor, people were really, really kind.
Oh, really good.
And we became a bit of a cause célèbre, I think. I mean, all these people waking up in the morning, seeing if the boat was still there bobbing.
Yeah.
We had a Facebook group that we weren't part of it, but someone once we went in, showed us that they'd all been discussing whether we're still there and whether we're completely mad.
The bobbing boat.
On a boat. And then one of them said, well, of course they're crazy. Look at their flag. They're English.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
The first time actually we were allowed ashore together, because you're allowed one at a time to go and get to the shops. But then things eased about 2 months in, and we went together. And there were people on shore that came up and invited us to dinner and all sorts. It was lovely. Yeah.
They've kind of been watching and waiting for us to land.
Yeah. We just saw shore waiting for you. Oh, they've come. Let's find them in. No, that's nice. That's really cool. Okay, so just going back a little bit, just a bit more about your lifestyle before, and then what got you into the cruising life. You two had incredibly successful careers, doing something very different, I suppose, from what most people do. You were both journalists, and you worked making documentaries. So can you just talk a bit about that, like what you actually did before? Because that lends itself into the YouTube stuff that you do as well now.
Yeah, well, we were together work-wise before we were married, and actually got together in that way.
Right, okay.
I was Judy's cameraman at ITN, where we worked doing news for many years.
So I was the reporter, he was the camera operator, and we've had to swap jobs a little bit with the YouTube channel. That's quite interesting. Quite often I film now and Steve does a bit of reporting, so we're mixing and matching more. But yes, we travelled around the world. So we went to the Kosovo together, and that's what Steve was referring to with sleeping in tents and things like that. Back to Africa quite a lot, and also I was Africa correspondent for a while. So when we went back to Africa, we had quite a good base to start training journalists. They knew us, we knew them. And that's the thing that we've done most recently. And making films for social change as well. That's something that is quite important to us. And I hope we can keep that going. One of the ideas, or one of the selling points, if you like, from Steve, is that during the winter months where you might have to anchor, we can go off and make some films. And up until COVID, that worked quite well. The last film we did last January, February of 2020, we'd literally just got back from Gambia, and we'd made a film there. So I think to an extent we can continue doing that, and it can tie in with the sailing lifestyle. And as you say, with the YouTube channel, it's wonderful because we can explore, we can film the sailing, but we can explore a little bit on land as well. So I hope we are combining that.
And it's an extension basically of what we, I mean, obviously it's easy for us. I've been a cameraman editor for 35 years. So, I mean, I'm in awe of the sailing channels that, you know, are dentists or whatever they are in a former life and come and decide to do this.
That's a good point, yeah.
You know, so for us, it's a lot easier really in that way, but it's still very time consuming. I mean, we only put out an episode once a fortnight, but we want to make them broadcast quality type, you know, episodes. You know, so we do the same for that as we're doing pretty much. I mean, it's not quite as easy because there is only the two of us. And filming yourself is quite tricky. I never had to do that in original life. But yes, so you know, we can do, you know, the episodes, you know, we do episodes within every couple of weeks and try and, you know, do other things as we go as well. And, you know, there's time to do that. Judy's just completed her PhD during the first.
Congratulations. That's really good.
Oh, thank you.
So, yeah, I mean, you know, you get time to do things, but not as much time as you think. I mean, with the channel as well. I mean, we've been, sailing now. We left England, 3 years. I don't think I've read a book, you know, a novel, apart from a technical manual about something. I haven't had time to sit down and read a book, you know, because there is so much to do, which is amazing. And not everyone, it's not everyone's experience. I mean, there was with Jane and Phil's in Cartagena. They gave up after 2 years because they said, well, they just found it boring. There wasn't enough to do. So actually having the sailing channel is good because it's, you know, it's an extension of what we did before. We put journalism into it. We don't just do it as a, you know, this is us, you know, out at sea. We will find interesting people and interesting things because that's what we've always done. So for instance, in the next episode, we've just yesterday went and interviewed some people on a tugboat here who use it as a rescue boat. They're usually based in Sicily.
Oh, interesting.
And they go out off the Libyan border and pick up, and they've got some fantastic footage of, you know, them taking 150 people off a boat, you know, and trying to bring them back to Italy and just saving lives. So, you know, you find people like that, just interesting people everywhere. And, you know, we can just sort of do a bit of that, you know, usual journalism type stuff of finding interesting people and reporting it. You know.
It is really cool. I mean, you know, the majority of YouTube channels that do sailing or social media pages or whatever that are into sailing, it is generally people who have done sailing, they like it, and then they figure out how to use, you know, like an iPhone camera or, you know, like an iPod camera or something like that. Whereas you guys are actually professional filmmakers, and you have just taken your profession to your boat, and you're basically doing documentaries from your boat, just about your lifestyle, but in the same way in which you've treated your career professionally.
Yeah, and it really works well because, I mean, the same as you in your professional career, you're very, we've always felt privileged. You go somewhere, you know, like we went to cover the handover of Hong Kong in 1997. You don't just go there as a tourist and see, you know, the pieces east of Central. You'll go and you'll see, you know, you'll be with an exec in the penthouse suite in the, you know, in the morning, then in Kowloon with some blue collar workers, then, you know, in someone's Ferrari that they can only do 5 miles an hour because there's too much traffic in Hong Kong. You actually get the inside track on things, and similar things happens even with this because people see your channel and come and see us. I mean, you know, Tommaso, who's a gondolier here, he had seen our channel. He'd seen the boat, loved the boat. He's got a Halberg Rassi, and said, "Oh, look, gondolas aren't going to work. Do you want a lesson? Come and have a go." You know, like that. I mean, how does that happen? You know, in Venice, a gondolier say, "Come on, let's just go in the canals and we'll, you know, you can learn to be a gondolier." Well, great. You know, really good. And tomorrow we're going to go and see some friends who saw, you know, lived just inland. Came and saw us, you know, they liked the channel, so invited us for Sunday lunch. So we're going to go there tomorrow. You know, you really get an inside track doing that, and that's all because of the exposure from the YouTube channel, which is great.
Yeah.
And also, I think broadcast is changing in that people are now watching YouTube more and more. And I don't mean just young people. I think, you know, when we first set out, we thought we'd have like a few Sunday viewers, frankly, and everyone else would be watching the Vagabonds because young people watch YouTube. Well, we found that's not the case at all, and I'm sure some
not
young...
for us. our stats, so it's all men over 60, I think. If you look at the analytics.
So yes, that's changing, and of course we can broadcast what we like, you know, within the rules. We don't have to, you know, getting documentaries commissioned can be a complete pain, frankly, and we don't have to do that now. We've got our own channel.
Yeah.
We can do what we want.
Do what we want. It's great.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it is the aspect of the fact that you do come from broadcasting and then you've got into doing this is like really interesting. Just like okay, so just looking back on your careers, for example. So you were, Judy, you were a news anchor correspondent. So you basically read the news.
Yeah. Well, I was a reporter. Is what I
Reporter,
really,
right? Okay.
Yeah, I decided to read the news when the children were little because it was a much more sort of 9 to 5 kind of job. You know, you go in and you read we used to read on the 24-hour news channel we had with ITN. So I'd read for 3 hours, then my colleague would read for 3 hours, and I'd read for another 3 hours, and then we'd go home. So that's a regular job. Whereas before I was a foreign correspondent, and you're, at the mercy of whatever's happening in the world.
You fly somewhere for a day, 3 weeks later you're still there. And
it was a bit like that. I said when I had my first child, I'll go on trips, but not the kind of the never-ending ones. And of course, that never works. You get to Spain to do something about Spanish fishermen, and then something happens in Israel, and it's like, oh, you're the closest. Off you go. And in the end, it did get to the point where I never got home, and or I couldn't say when I'd be home, and you can't bring up children like that.
Yeah. And when it's both of us doing it, together off doing it, then it's mother-in-law, has to come or whatever, look after kids, and there's a limit to how often that can happen.
So then I started reading the news, and now I don't read the news anymore, and it's much nicer.
Okay, so you were a foreign correspondent before you got into basically working in the studio, and it was right, and you did that because you wanted to raise kids, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
We came back. And then I set up the Africa Bureau for Sky News because I was working at ITN, and then Sky News happened, and they said at the time that they were going to be
1980.
Yeah, so it's a long
something.
time ago.
Right.
In 1990. And
that must have been when Sky News just started, because it's relatively new.
Exactly. So I went to them because when you're a girl, people aren't going to send you to war zones, or they didn't in those days. And so that was a bit frustrating. I wasn't necessarily wanting to go to a war zone, but I wanted to travel quite a bit. So I went to Sky and I said, I will get, if you give me a letter to say I'm working for you, I will get a work permit to go to South Africa, because you can't just pitch in South Africa and start being a journalist, or you couldn't in those days anyway. You had to be, authorized.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, that sounds like quite a good deal. They didn't think they would have a very big story in South Africa. And then, of course, Nelson Mandela was released, and it was all go.
That was a big deal, yeah.
And that's, we train journalists now, and one of the things you say to them is that, go where the story is. Don't sort of sitting in a company thinking, okay, I'll wait and do my 10 years, and then they might give me a reporter shift at the weekend. Go where the story is, and if the story happens, you're there. You'll do it. So you have to get out there and amongst it, to do things. I think generally, actually.
Yeah.
And especially with YouTube, I mean, like, YouTube has changed journalism so much, because there's so many people now who don't watch, like BBC or ITV or CNN or whatever, but they actually go to like a more like personal news source that's on YouTube or a website where they stream their own version of the news, and it's great because you can do it from home. If you want to go to Africa, for example, you can book a flight, go over there, pick a good story, report on it. So it's completely changed.
It has, yeah. I mean, it's difficult. We could talk for hours about that one, because that's a difficult one. This sort of citizen journalism is, can be tricky, but yeah. I mean, there's a place for it.
Yeah. So did you decide simultaneously, okay, we want to finish what we're doing with this part of our career, which is like working for news networks, for example, and then go sailing? Or was it like, did you become self-employed, like you were training the journalists, and then you thought, okay, now we can go and do this? So how did that work?
We had about 3 years self-employed, I think. Well,
okay.
I did work much longer than that.
Yes, I was self-employed from the point that the children, our eldest was about 10 or something.
Yeah.
So I decided no, I couldn't be at the beck and call really. But I was reading the news as freelance, and I was reporting as a freelance, and media training as a freelance. And Steve was working at the BBC.
Yeah, I rejoined the BBC because that's more containable. ITN would send you somewhere for forever. You go there, and then you'll go somewhere else, and then somewhere else, and they pay you a lot of money, but they get their money's worth. The BBC a little bit kinder than that, that family life. I mean, it's a young man's game being somewhere like ITN as a cameraman. Really, you couldn't have family life as well, really.
So we were freelance together for about 3 years, and that's when we started traveling a little bit together as the children were older. In fact, we went to Zambia for a month and came back, and the children were in the sixth form, the two youngest. The eldest had left, and every single plate in the whole of the house had been used, and they were just piling up. because they just refused to wash up. So rather than wash up,
I remember doing that.
they used another plate. It was quite amazing. But, I mean, I think children can look after themselves in the sixth form.
Well, that's good.
Old enough. Yeah, I wasn't the best when I was that age. I left a few plates in the sink too often. So, all right. So, like, from moving from your career, because obviously, like, you were working together, and although like you were based in the UK, I imagine you still had to travel a lot and stuff. How is that compared to having 3 kids on a boat? Not living on the boat, but 3 kids elsewhere, meeting up with them, seeing them, doing family holidays. Like, how does that work?
It worked really well before
Until
COVID.
Yeah. It's a different question now to what it would have been a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. We have missed that. There's no two ways about it. Not just the family, but friends and extended family. Everyone came out to Cartagena when we first got there, and that was what we wanted it to be like.
Yeah.
Frankly, we would have had them all
So,
out here.
I mean,
Venice.
we hired a villa out there, which is, a room out there, Airbnb, and they all come down. Granny came down. It's great. So you can do that if you can travel. It's part of excuse me. It's part of the reason we started we want to spend a bit of time in the Med until the kids are completely settled. We have one's married now with a child, the other 2 have left uni and are sort of making their way. But until that they've really sort of settled, it's nice to be closer. But of course, COVID now has stopped that sort of flitting backwards and forwards that we would have done. We only just about got back for Christmas this year. Next year, right, it's better, and they'll all come down. We'll be in Turkey. It'll be warm. They can all come down for Christmas. So, it's nice. And I mean, when you think about it in normal life, you think, well, do you want to buy a house that's sort of round the corner so you're there all the time? Well, it's unfeasible anyway with 3 kids. They're all in different places.
Yeah.
They're all, and who knows where they'll end up. I mean, several of them are thinking of going abroad for jobs anyway, so they might end up anywhere. So while that's happening, there's no point in us saying we're going to buy a house here so that you're going to be close. It's just, you might be close to one if you're lucky, and then they might move. Who knows? Yeah. So actually, when you're mobile like this, there's, you're sort of used to that. You're used to being out, and when you can get on a plane, it was great, but obviously not at the moment.
And that was one of the advantages for me as well. I think I was more tied to going home more often, and I would do that and leave Steve on the boat when we were in Amsterdam, for instance. And again, that was a lifestyle thing that we could do until COVID. So once this is over, I think we'll have to reassess and get that up and going again. But yeah, that's part of the advantage, because with a boat you can just lock it and go. I mean, better than a house in many ways. Yeah. And so some of our other work comes off. We can do that as well. I mean, with the PhD I've got, I don't want to just have a PhD. I did that for a reason, which is I needed research evidence that the films we were making in terms of social change worked. So it would be a bit of a shame if we couldn't go and make some more.
Yeah, it seems like you've done a PhD for it. Yeah, that's a good point. I think on the flip side of that as well, it's like when you have families and they live so close together, they end up in a relationship where it's just more about what have you done today? What do you want for tea? Do you want to come round for dinner? Whereas in your situation, when you actually spend time with your kids, it will be like really valued, appreciated, relaxed, nice quality family time.
It is,
and you will be in a good environment.
You don't miss out on the day-to-day either, because you've got Skype, you've got they FaceTime all the time, so we speak to them most days. So you're sort of up with what's going on. It's not like I mean, my father, when he lived on a boat when I was, I don't know, 20 something, and he was around the world. I used to write letters. Obviously, it was before the internet then. So you get a letter once every couple of months. That was it.
Yeah, I suppose from like the lifestyle you were used to, and especially now, because you've obviously like during the 80s you travelled and you worked, like the technology that you've got now, your family are literally always a touch away. You can have a conversation with them face to face, and it's such a massive change.
Yeah, and it's changed the face of sailing as well. I mean, obviously what's happening now, this phenomenon, and getting guys on sailing channels that have never been on a boat before that go out and get out and do it. That couldn't happen before, because without the navigation aids that we've got now, you couldn't do that. It would be far too dangerous. But now you can, and if you I mean, a lot of people are snooty about it, old time sailors, they can't be doing this. But in fact, when you look at it, a lot of these sailing channels that only learned to sail a few years ago, well, they've been sailing solidly since, and they've probably got more experience than someone that sailed all their lives at the weekend. So, you can't be snooty about it. These guys do it. And if you've got the right attitude, you can do it, and that's only because of the technology that's available now. If you'd had to learn what I had to learn when I sailed, people just wouldn't do it, and they didn't in those days because it's too hard. It takes too long.
Yeah, I mean, it must have changed so much. I mean, I remember even I did my first RYA course. I think when I was like 16 or something like that. I think I was 16 or 17, and the instruments that you had to learn how to use then were completely different from what they are now because you didn't have a mobile phone. So you had to learn how to use like a 1990s style Raymarine chart plotter, which are pretty useless in comparison to like what you've got now.
The chart plotter. I mean, when I learned it was paper charts and the sextant and an RDF find, and that's all we had. And and we down the East Coast with all those mud banks and fog and all the rest of it. And sometimes you'd find landfall and you're 2 miles away from where you think. Now, if you're 2 meters away from where you think, oh my God, I'm not quite, that buoy's not quite where it says on the chart plotter. Well, I'm looking at a chart and thinking, well, oh God, I thought we'd come at the Blackwater actually in Yorwell. You can miss things by miles. So very different game. Very different.
Do you find, because you've been sailing for such a long time, is it your natural instinct to revert back to the chart and the sextant and the old equipment, or are you now fully bought into the tech?
No, you have to fully buy into it, and you will get, because I think we are naturally Luddites sailors. Old sailors are Luddites really in the tech, and it's a problem because the tech does move forward, and it can move forward safely. And you will get people that come out and say, "Oh, it's not safe if you haven't got a paper chart." Yes, it is. It really is. Have several forms of, because they're all completely independent now. We have got 3 or 4 iPads. You've got phones. You've got the ship system's got 2 different systems with 2 different GPSs. I mean, there's if you got hit by lightning, it might take out the boat, but it's not going to take out all those devices. It's just not. So and if you think, okay, my fallback is getting a paper chart out, well, and you only use that, you only used it 20 years ago. By the time you get to do that, you're so rusty. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Just make sure that you've got the right backup for the tech that's available now. And the same with everything else. I mean, I do, technical videos on anchoring and things like that. And people say, oh God, well, you don't need that. You need a shackle. You can't have a swivel. Oh, no, think of what's happened with the technology. Stainless steel, people think stainless steel is 316. Well, it was years ago. Now it's 318, 316 Ti, 316L. These materials are fantastic, and they're not, you can't have this line of, oh no, it's no good, it'll get crevice corrosion and it's too brittle. Yeah, it was 20 years ago, it's not now.
Yeah. Anchors might even be made of plastic at some point. I don't know. It could be.
Heavy plastic, then
it could be. I found out like a couple of weeks ago our sofa is actually made of cardboard. I didn't know that. I thought it was wood, but it's actually compressed cardboard. And I was really impressed. I was like, it's lasted for 5 years. It must be okay. Yeah. So okay. I mean, where you are now, you're in Venice. Like, COVID has happened, and then the lockdowns have taken place. What was your original plan once you got into the Med? Was it go all the way to the other side, come back, then shoot out? Or did you always plan on like spending a certain amount of time here?
It's sort of changed over time, isn't it? I think when we came down, we thought we'd spend 2 or 3 years. And then when we were here, we thought, well, there's more to see, maybe 5 or 6 years. And now, Brexit has happened, and we're thinking, we'll probably leave as soon as we can.
Yeah, that's changed a lot of things.
The Western Med's going to be, unless something happens next year. I mean, we're in quite a good position because being in this part of the Eastern Med, we've got Croatia, Montenegro on the way down, then we can get through Greece in 30 days, and then we can get to Turkey, and we've already set that
90 days,
up. 90 days, and then we get to Turkey, and you just get the usual residency thing there to stay there for the winter, which is quite easy. But then coming back out, unless something happens, I mean, even Gibraltar now is Schengen, so you've got no options in the Western Med. You've got your 3 months, and if you want to get out and get down to the Canaries, and then go across the pond, you've got to do that within 3 months, unless you sort some way out, or you go into Morocco or somewhere like that for 3 months. But it's not just going there for a few days. You've got to go there if you run out and stay there for 3 months.
Stay there for a long time.
But those sorts of things might open up. Tangiers, all those sorts of places might become, they might think, okay, great, let's really develop this and develop our marinas and have a lot of boats go in there, that might happen. Who knows? Or we might get some easy way of staying in somewhere like Spain, which would be good for 6 months rather than 3. Get some sort of bilateral agreement, because we're worse off than the rest of the world at the moment. The Aussies, for instance, have got bilateral agreements with people like Italy, so they can stay there for 6 months. We've got nothing. We've got no agreements at all.
It's got to happen. I mean, not just from like a sailing perspective, because there's not that many British people traveling around the world on sailboats. There's a couple of thousand, few thousand maybe, but just from a general people movement perspective, even kids, like a kid doing a gap year in university, they just want to travel around Europe, for example, they can't now, and that will actually have a burden on them, because if you want to go from like Amsterdam to Rome to Athens to Cadiz in a gap year, you can actually learn a lot. As a teenager, as an early 20-year-old, you can learn about independence, you can learn about history, other cultures, and it's taking something away from them.
Definitely. And the other way round as well, of course. I mean, a lot of the people in Europe used to go to England for
work.
For work and for the Erasmus, for the Erasmus exchange. We're not part of that exchange system anymore. So I think it's going to affect education and young people a lot more than people anticipated. Can I ask a question?
Of course, yeah.
Are you ever going to do this, do you think? You talked about your family. Are you going to sail around the world or sail all the time?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we've got a plan. So, so me and my wife, we lived in Dubai for 10 years. I've been a consultant in the oil and gas industry for, I think, about 15 years now, something like that. So we left Dubai 10 years ago. I'll tell you the backstory rather than just saying what I intend to do like in a short while. We left Dubai 10 years ago. My wife's from Syria. So she left, I think, about a year into the war. The family left the country. As many of them could leave the country as they could. Then she came to Dubai. That's when I met her. We were originally thinking about Turkey, but literally as we were looking at houses in Turkey, the military decided to drive the tanks through Istanbul and squash people. So we were literally watching the news as we were considering property, and we were like, all right, maybe that's not the right place to go now, so we'll give that one a miss. So we chose Spain. One of the ideas in the back of my mind was Spain was that it is a great point to explore this part of the Mediterranean on a boat, because I've been on boats since I think since about 16, something like that. But it was like a slow process of getting my wife used to it. She'd been on, I think, a motorboat sober once, and she threw up. And bizarrely, she doesn't throw up when she's drunk on a boat. So when we're in Dubai, it's a pretty common thing over there. If you have like an office party, you get like a small motorboat and you go and have drinks and stuff. So she enjoyed that. She was terrified of the water until she got drunk, and then she'd jump in whatever the depth was, whatever time of night. So it was also pretty funny. We when we came over to Spain, got a sailboat. She really likes it now, and COVID in a way has like really changed my perspective on life quite a bit, from the point of view that we had an idea to sail around the world that would maybe kick off in about 10 or 15 years. Not particularly related to like a financial goal, but just let's just be comfortable for like 10, 15 years and then go. But with COVID happening and the idea that you've really got nothing if people decide that you've got nothing. You've only got a life if you're actually allowed to leave your house. And if you're not, you really don't have anything in value, and anything monetary that you have is irrelevant. Because if you had a business that you were told you wasn't allowed to open, you've lost everything you've got. So it was during, I think, for the first like 3 months of COVID, when we were in the house and my business was just completely slowing down, because I was in oil and gas, so I just completely stopped. We were getting a bit fed up. We were like, okay, maybe like a transient lifestyle is going to be more better suited, because we really don't want to be stuck in this position again. Like lockdowns in your case were a bit unique, because you ended up again stuck somewhere where you probably didn't want to be stuck. But the idea of, if one country starts acting really strange and stupid, just go on to the next one. And especially in Europe now, because every country just started doing their own thing. Like Spain did a home confinement for like a couple of months. The UK didn't do much very soon at all, which was
No, I
really
know.
strange.
No,
And then
it's strange.
Germany was doing something completely
Yeah,
different.
kids weren't allowed out for months, were they?
Yeah.
Really
Yeah,
strange.
well, even now, like we've got a 2-year-old, and he still can't go to a play area because they've locked all the play areas. So for a year, and he loves play areas. You know, like even today we went out for some food, and I took him out of the car. I lifted him up. He turned around, he saw a play area. He was like, whoop, 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 like this. So I'm like, sorry, not yet. So we just decided, yeah, let's just go with the transient lifestyle. We'll just make it a bit sooner and bring it forward. So yeah, we are, and it's probably going to be in about 4 years,
Okay.
I think.
I know why you asked all those questions at the beginning. Then you're actually planning your trip. You're really just
yeah, kind of.
okay, let's go and do this. You've got it sorted. So what
Yeah.
boat are you going to get to do this in then?
Oh, I doubt you'd be happy with my choice of boat.
Have you watched the Which Cruising Boat video?
No, I haven't actually watched. No. Oh no, sorry, I think I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an older one.
Well, yeah, no, it's yeah. I've done it. I did it a while ago. I think we did it during the first lockdown. You know, we did lots of those things.
But he didn't talk much about cats.
I talk about fat ass boats in there a lot.
Yeah. No, because I know you were talking about keel types and that type of stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got a Moody.
Okay, yeah, well, good. Beamy,
which I think is a brilliant boat. I love it. It's British. It's slightly old school. It's really heavy. It's great. But when we are going to be at the point where we've got a family and we've got more kids, like it's difficult to find a boat like yours that can have like 3 kids and a couple of pets on board. And my wife really likes the idea of a swim platform, which kind of limits out any very good boat, really, or it limits it to like a new one. So
everything's a compromise. It's all a bit tongue in cheek. The video that I did there, because you know you can do it. You can do it.
You're totally right.
But and you've got to find something that suits your lifestyle and what you're doing. And but part of that, and the thing that people forget, I think, is that it's still got to be comfortable in the seaway, and that's the crucial bit. So something like your Mood is fine. You know, you need something similar of a similar ilk that's still got your swim platform and a large cockpit and all those things that you want, you know, with kids and to have a nice time, you know.
Yeah, well, we really like so Moody do like a deck saloon range now. They've got one called the 45DS, which is like, it's kind of, I don't know if it's the best of both worlds or if it's the worst of both, but it's like a blue water cruiser with a catamaran style deck, I suppose, where, you know, you walk into like a living room and then you go down, which is really nice, kind of like a pilot house, but a new nicer version.
The sort of French boats are doing that as well. I think it's a very good idea. You know, Boreal and those sorts of stuff, they're doing the same thing. It's almost an extension of the hard dodger that we've got, but that's really important. Having somewhere sheltered that you can get, just to, even, you know, people think, oh, if you're in a hot climate, it doesn't matter. It does, because you're exposed to the wind. It's wearing if you're sat out in an open cockpit with just a little canvas dodger. You know, you need something better.
I think one of the best things about like that, like your boat, for example, you've got a hard dodger on there, and you are very, very well protected. Even if you had incredibly rough seas, you could, you know, huddle underneath there, and you're not going to get soaked unless you've got waves like coming from everywhere. But it's nice to be able to, you know, like relax in the comfort of your saloon area, and you can still just look about what's going on. You can use your autopilot from the saloon area, really comfortable. Because I get really tired when I sail. If I sail for like 6 hours, I need a nap. Being out in the sun and the wind.
It's being exposed. It's being exposed. You've got to have the we call it a doghouse because it's a bit more than a, you know, just that dodger. So it comes back, you know, past the sides of you, so you don't get, you know, that wind coming in from the side. And that's really important, just not to be buffeted around. You don't get, you know, worn out at all sailing this way. It's, you know, it's very easy. When we crossed the Bay of Biscay, actually, you know, we got, you know, because we were running, they had a big force 10 that came through really quickly, and half the boats, because we did it with ARC Portugal, so there were 20 boats leaving. 6 boats got completely left out to sea. They weren't fast enough to beat this storm coming through, so went out to sea. And had a really rough time for a couple of days, you know, before they got really beaten up. we managed to get into A Coruña. We were going for Bionia. We got into A Coruña before it hit properly, along with a couple of other boats. But I mean, they got off and, they said, oh my God, we've had 3 days of not being able to sleep, not being able to eat, staying in the same clothes. And we said, really? We've had a shower every day and 3 meals and fine. It's our boat. It's not that. It's fine. It's really not. It's not an issue.
Just given your sailing experience, because like you've sailed a lot before and you've been in races and that type of stuff. What made you want to go for like a 26-ton tank style wood ship? Because like it's a hell of a boat.
Judy's pointing at herself. Yes, I mean, it's not just that. I like comfort as well. If you're going to live on it, you don't want to be. It's in some ways it's not the exciting sailing that you'll get. Well, it isn't. It's not like. I mean, even the steering on this. We've got hydraulic steering, which I love. I think it's brilliant. But if I was weekend sailing, it would drive me mad because you don't get the feel. And you think, sailing. It's not. But I mean, we can count the times we've basically hand steered on one hand, in the last 3 years on this voyage, because you stick the auto helm on and you're doing stuff, you might be tweaking the sail, doing whatever. You just sail it in a different way. So it's not, you don't get the feel, you're not doing it in that sort of way, but it's still good fun, but just in a different style, a good fun. So, you don't have to have these sort of racy boats, twin keeled, all the rest of it to think, oh, okay, well that's brilliant. It might be on a certain day for a couple of hours, and then you get bored with it and think, oh God, I'd rather actually be comfortable now. I'd rather be able to go down, make a cup of tea, and think this boat's going to sail itself, which our boat can do, even without the auto helm on. I can set the sails up to do that because it's long keeled. It'll just go in a straight line. It's not a problem. So it's great.
In fact, the only time we've had to really sail is when we've been in trouble, like when we were coming into Croatia. I think we did sail then for a couple of hours, and it was quite hairy. So you can do it, but I think Steve's right. You just wouldn't stay up there all the time. No, it's just not how you do it.
But it's not that. It would be a lot more hairy in a lighter boat. You just don't get thrown around so much. And a centre cockpit boat, I think, is great as well.
Yeah.
There's less movement, in doing that, and a lot of it's the feel as well. You feel safer in a centre cockpit boat. Some of these modern boats now, these fat ass boats that are wide and open transom. Jesus, and they've got twin wheels at about 2 foot from the transom of the boat. You think, I would not want to be on that thing, surfing 20 knots down a big sea. You think, no, you'd feel so exposed.
Yeah, we were looking at I think it was a Genoa in a marina last week, and I think it was like 30 foot or 32 foot. It was twin helm, and I was like, why on earth do you need two wheels when the boat's only that large anyway? You can literally just do that and see from side to side. And the bag was the cockpit floor just went straight out.
Straight out, yeah.
And you've got lifelines which are like this thick. I was like, that looks like a death trap. Like, no way, we've not been for that.
Yeah, no, and some of the, there was a 60-footer that came in here with a crew. It's actually a woman that was the crew, wasn't she? And
the captain.
she was a hired captain. And it was a British guy that owned it. He had gone back, so she said, "Oh, come and have a look around the boat." And she had to admit, she said, well, it's a lovely boat because it's, it's fast and all the rest of it. But Jesus, even in the Med, this is a 2 million, 3 million pound boat, probably even, I don't know. But it's got some issues with it where you think, I would not want to take this out in anything other than, a full 7 in the Med. You say, okay, let's go out in something proper, in an open ocean, and you just wouldn't want to do it. And that had the same thing, had an enormous cockpit, and just a little guardrail along the back, a lifeline along the back. And she said, well, one of the time the one of the crew was seasick and came running out because they were going to be sick. And she said she had to dive across to grab them. She was just worried that they were going to go straight over the back of the boat.
She's just going to carry on and just shoot straight over the back of it.
You just stop and slide. And there's nowhere, like a lot of modern boats, nowhere to hold on to. You walk down the companionway steps. I mean, this happened to me at I think the Paris Boat Show one time. I walked down the steps and there was a guy sitting at the saloon table, and he must have sort of seen the look on my face that I was sort of inwardly laughing, maybe even outwardly. And he sort of said, "Can I help you?" I didn't know he was the salesman. I just thought there was someone there. And I said, "No, I was just sort of thinking if you had this boat out in an open ocean, what on earth would you hold on to? There's nothing here. It's like 4 foot, 6 foot between the end of the companionway steps and the saloon table. And he said, oh yeah, we were thinking we maybe put a couple of handholds in the boat.
A couple of metal bars on the roof or something.
Yeah, I'll be doing that. Yeah. And then you look around it and you say, well, because I had a look around. It looks massive. It's a smaller boat than ours, but look twice the size inside because it's got no cupboards. It's all open. Yeah. It's to look open plan and as big and as lovely as possible. But you think, well, where'd you put things? There were 3 drawers in the whole of the boat. 3 drawers. That was all they had.
3 drawers.
A couple of small cupboards. And I thought, well, maybe there's something, in the bilge. And I thought, no, it's one of these flat bottom, no bilge type boats. But I think, well, maybe there's something because all the water tanks were under the seats, something to watch out for. You think, oh, well, space under there, but no, they have to put the tankerage there if it's not got a proper keel. So I said, well, can we have a look under the under the sole? Some of the sections of the sole would come up, but I couldn't see a catch. I couldn't see a way of lifting it up. He said, and he opened one of the 3 drawers that were on this boat and he pulled out a plunger, and he pulled it up with his plunger with this really sort of look on his face saying, oh, isn't that great? Look, you get 2 of these as well, and you can lift the floor up with that. I said, really? So in a knockdown everything just falls out, does it? And he said, oh, it's a big boat, so it wouldn't get knocked down. Really? Okay. So that's the mentality that even a salesman has. It has, can say that to a sailor in a boat show. It's not going to get knocked down. So, okay. It won't if you live on it in a marina, which is probably what it'll end up doing.
Yeah, I mean, they're not making them for crossing oceans anymore. They're making them to sit in marinas or anchorages just around from the charter office or something like that. But there's a couple. But I mean, I don't like you'll understand more about this than me because you've probably got a lot more experience with like older, stronger boats. But like a new Halberg Rassi, for example, is that as good as a Halberg Rassi from the 1980s? Like, is it as strong? Is it as thick? And is it good?
Yeah.
Apart from the twin rudders, yeah.
I wouldn't go with the twin rudders, and they have. They've made that option.
Yeah.
I don't know why they've done it. I mean, a lot of the ones that got twin rudders, they have to because they've made the aft section so flat that you just couldn't steer it without twin rudders. So that, they had no option to do it. But it's not a good thing. It's not something that you should think, oh, well, that makes it better. People think, oh, well, you got twin rudders. If one went wrong, you've got the other. No, it won't, because if you bang a rudder, it will jam, and the whole thing will jam. I've actually personally had to come to the rescue of 2 boats that have done exactly that. One of them in Chichester Harbour was just coming through the lock, tiny tap as it came through, locked it, so he came down the middle of the fairway in Chichester with no steering. So I managed to throw a rope and get him onto the handhead. But it just happens all the time, those sorts of things. It's so easy to do. I mean, I think, we would, if we had a boat like that, I think we would have broken it twice in the time. We went backwards onto a, where was it in the Solent? There's it was
on the Isle of Wight.
Yeah, it's on the Isle of Wight side. It's a Weymouth, is it? There's a bank anyway. It's all quite a way out. It's quite well known. I know it's there. But I came out to pick up a buoy, and stupidly, completely my own fault. You're sitting there, and there's a it's supposed to be a couple of knot ties, but what they're like there's a bit of an eddy, and we were going backwards. So I was just sitting there stooging around trying to on the VHF get a hold of the marina. It was in Yarmouth. That's where it's just off Yarmouth. Just trying to say, oh, what buoy can we pick up? And I didn't notice we were just sliding backwards slowly, and then suddenly, back of the boat is hit just him. It's just sandbank. It's no problem for us. So give it a bit of throttle, off we go forward. But twin rudders, they would have gone. That would have been that, no steerage. So easy done. Easy done if you've got a fragile boat like that. And people say, oh, well, they're really strong. You can land. You can get a boat to actually go out on dry land. You can dry it out, and it has got that, but it's made for that. It's made to sit squarely downwards. It's not made for any side force. It's got no skeg. It's got nothing, so yeah, I mean, it's still exposed.
I've got a friend that does a lot of deliveries for Bavaria, and he's always done deliveries for Bavaria. So he'll take them from, I think he takes them from Algeciras in Spain or somewhere. He takes them from Spain, then he takes them across the Med, and he's because I think all Bavarias now are twin rudder, or the larger ones are twin rudder anyway. And I was asking him, like, what is the difference in between like a new Bavaria 46 and like a Bavaria 46 from like 20 years ago when they were very solid and the carpentry was solid wood? And he said the worst thing is the twin rudder. And I was like, why is that? He was like, if you're close hauled and the sea state is pretty rough and you're heeled over you've basically got no steerage, because half of one rudder might be out of the water. And your boat is basically relying on half a tiny rudder on one side of the boat doing that. And you've just got hardly any steerage.
Yeah, it's not actually the rudder that's the problem, because you have got one, you should have one rudder that's in the water enough, but it's the fact that it's steering on the shape of the hull. That to get that big cockpit, they've made the hull flat and wide, and that means the rocker of the boat is all completely upset. It's got much more buoyancy at the back than the front, and it just doesn't behave properly in waves, and it won't stay in a straight line. They'll just be skittish. They'll be all over the state, and that's really dangerous, because you get in a state then where you can just broach. You can broach on something that you think you'd never broach a boat on. Fairly smallish waves of the wrong period. You can be hit by something like that at the wrong angle. It'll broach you. You'll have no steering. But it's not because there's not enough rudder there. It's just because of the shape of the hull.
Yes, it's the overall design that's led
the shape of the hull to get twin berths in the aft sections. They want these double twin cabins. That's what they've done it for. So they've done it to look good at the boat show, not to actually sail.
Which boat manufacturers do you think are actually still making like strong, seaworthy, sensible boats?
Well, Harbour Brassey are definitely one of them.
Yeah, I think they're still there.
The twin rudders, as I say, I mean, they are great boats. They're Island Packet still good. If you want a smaller boat, Rustlers are great. I mean, they brilliantly, but they're still making them. They do twin rudder versions as well, but I think you can still get them single rudders. I mean, there are still there's still a lot of good makes out there. Oyster are still good. There's you can find good boats.
Yeah, so it's the price is the problem. Yeah, we've been looking at a few recently. I'm like, oh, these oysters are so nice, and I'm like, I don't have £1 million. Like, that's not going to work. They are expensive things.
No, well, that's the thing, and and that's the decision we made buying this boat. I mean, you couldn't buy a new small southerly for the price of this boat. It's a completely different thing. And but there's always been my mentality. If I've got the money, if I've got money to go out and buy a nice car, I'm not going to go out and buy maybe a brand new BMW when I could buy a second-hand TVR. You think, well, why do it? It's going to lose massive amounts of value the minute you take it out of the showroom in the case of a car. In the case of a boat, not only are you buying something that its value is going to fall straight away if you buy it new, it doesn't come equipped with stuff. I mean, we talked to a guy, an Aussie couple, lovely Aussie family in Cartagena, who inspired by YouTube had decided they wanted the sailing life. They weren't sailors. They took some courses. They bought a catamaran, but when they did it, they didn't realize that it doesn't come with anything, not even an anchor. So you've got to do all that. You've got to work out how to do, and the cost of that. I mean, they had the money. That wasn't the issue. It was that they didn't really have the knowledge of what to get. But they're here. We still see them. They're doing very well. If you've got the right attitude, you can do it.
I think that's the key thing. Whether you've got sailing experience or whether you haven't got sailing experience, like you said at the beginning, if your approach is, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make this work, then you can.
Yeah, 100%. And so just like with regards to your boat, was your boat cruise ready when you bought it, or did you have to do a lot to it?
I mean, no boat's cruise ready. I don't think if it hasn't been used as a livable type boat. So it's a really, really well set up boat, this one, for high latitude sailing. So for instance, one of the things that were on this, it had stainless steel anchor chain on this, which is unheard of 20 years ago. And I looked at that and thought, what on earth, who puts a stainless steel anchor chain on a boat? Because it's so phenomenally expensive. And actually 20 years ago, there wasn't the technology that was good enough to have stainless steel chain that would work around the world. This had 316 Ti on it, which is fine in the northern latitudes. And the guy that owned it, it was 17 years old when we bought her. And it had been used to go to northern Scotland and Iceland, Norway and places like that. It's fine in cold water, but you bring in warm water and 316 Ti is no good. 316L you're struggling with. So I mean, I was on the verge of changing that for galvanized chain. I really looked into it, and 318 is what you need, which is duplex chain, which is what we have now, and it's absolutely superb. So when you look into the technology, there are things that are available. So there are things like that were set up well, but weren't with the right standard that's available now. Was one thing, and then of course there's the other thing, which is we are going to live on this boat, not just sail it. I mean, he sailed it for months at a time, not just weekends. But there are extra things you want, like the solar panels. You need to sort the power requirements out properly. We had an onboard Jenny, but that's been trouble since. That's the only thing with this boat that's been trouble. But it has been trouble right from the get-go. I've rebuilt it twice. That engine is, I've had enough of it. It's got to go.
Get rid of it.
but yes, I mean, you've got to get things that are just, that are right for long-term cruising. You think of anything else? What the sort of the main things?
Well, the turbo wasn't working, was it?
Oh, well, I think, it had odds. There's always odds, with a 20-year boat, bits that weren't working, that aren't exactly right.
But other than that, it was a massive cleanup. It had been left for a couple of years because the previous owner had died, unfortunately. So there wasn't a handover or anything like that, and it was just waiting to be sold. So yes, it had been left for a while, but it was relatively cosmetic, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's just hard work. It's just all the teak, all blown varnish and all the rest of it. So it's just getting all that sort of back. But with a boat like this, with the bare bones, is brilliant, because that's the difference between having a boat that's, as you said earlier, solid. When you had boats that were solid wood. If you're going to live on a boat, it's got to be solid wood inside, because you just knock the veneer off stuff and it'll look terrible so quickly. They look lovely if you buy them new, but that's another reason maybe to buy a second-hand boat, is that if it still looks good when it's been bashed around for a couple of years, then it's going to keep looking good. You can buy a new boat and it looks fantastic, and 6 months down the line it might look absolutely terrible if it hasn't been built well and designed well. You'll knock the corners off things and it'll start looking ragged. But the amount of problems people get with new boats is astonishing. Even just going through I was watching a thing with Distant Shores the other day, coming back through the Panama Canal, and it's a 3-year-old boat. He knows what he's doing as well. Bow thruster's not working. Well, they're not spec'd right. Not very good electric bow thrusters. This boat's got a hydraulic bow thruster, and after having that, if you're going to have a bow thruster, have a hydraulic one, because they're just so much better. Anything that's high powered and working off DC is not a good idea. Windlass is the same thing. We've got hydraulic windlass, so much better than having high amperage units that are on board your boat, because they will go wrong very quickly. Same with electric winches. We don't have them. I don't want them. If you need some help with a winch, then you can have a plug-in device that into a standard winch that will do it for you. If you must have that, they're quite expensive. And we haven't, but when we get old and frail, that's the line I'll be going down. I won't be putting electric or hydraulic winches on either.
Yeah. Oh, it makes much more sense. Like just from a general point of view as well. I'm from Wigan, so I'm from the a coal mine town. And a lot of the original machinery that they still used in like the mills and the cotton mills in Wigan is still there. And they well, not now, but I know up until recently, when it was a museum, they still turned it on and it works. And some of this mechanical equipment is like 200 years old. Like, I very much doubt anything that they made when electricity was first invented is still working at the click of a switch. So yeah, if it's big and it's made of steel and it's heavy, it's probably going to last a hell of a lot longer than something that just works off like basic electricity.
If you want to support the production of these podcasts, you can become a member of our community on Patreon, where you will be able to access extra content, interact with our guests, and become a part of the show.